Good afternoon. I'm here with my guest, Susan Eisenberg, and we're going to be talking about her new book of poems, Stanley's Girl. Welcome, Susan.
Glad to be here.
Great. I just like to say Susan Eisenberg is a poet, a visual artist, an oral historian, licensed electrician, and recent artist scholar at the Brandeis Women's Studies Research. You still are.
Yeah.
Oh, and a resident, I should say, resident rather.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's also the curator of the online exhibit On Equal Terms, Gender, and Solidarity. Her most recent book is the reissued We'll Call You If We Need You. You want to hold that up?
Sure.
Experiences of Woman Working Construction. And so I was going to start off by asking you, what made you want to go into construction in the first place? I mean, that was sort of a ballsy move, wasn't it?
Well,
and back then in the 70s.
it was,
yeah.
so I started in 1978, which is when federal affirmative action under President Carter opened construction
Right.
jobs to women. So I don't know, I had been doing theater and working under grants, so it actually seemed like a great, it's physical and intellectual and creative work, really being an electrician. So, and there's a drama to it, putting up a building. So it was like a door opened and I went in, and it was a way to, at first, have a work day and then a creative work day and make a good wage. And I enjoyed the work. And some things that were naive, I wanted to work outdoors, which and when it would be like the middle of summer, really hot, or in the middle of winter, I'd go, what? So some things that were naive about what it was.
What did people say about you becoming a construction worker? There was no...
Yeah. It was like it really, if you think about that time of the late 70s, it comes after it from the civil rights movement and the feminist movement, and kind of really rethinking, what were limitations.
Yeah.
So,
right. But still there weren't many women in construction.
No, there still aren't many women, and there's certainly a lot more opposition than I had. And I didn't have any idea, really. I just thought, it became
Do you think
legal.
it would be different now, the men attitudes with the movements and everything and all the stuff that's been happening?
Well, the numbers have stayed low, so that reflects something.
Yeah.
Women are still less than
Right.
3% of the workforce.
Right.
So that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't just happen by itself, to not have women in these good jobs. So.
Now, like many poets I've interviewed, you showed me this book that you were involved in this anthology of people who studied under Denise Levertov, who used to live in Davis Square in Somerville, Mass. What did she bring to the plate that influenced your own work?
Well, I worked with her in the mid-'70s.
At MIT?
No, not at MIT. No, it was at that point she was at Tufts.
Okay.
And she brought me in as an older person. I was 24 to kind of, balance the class out, somebody with life experience like that. So that was a little, in retrospect, a little funny. But I really learned the craft of poetry from her, and just hearing a line break. And it was really when she was writing those essays that are now, the function of the line. So I really had before that wrote from instinct and, would revise from instinct. And so I learned those tools. But I think also more importantly, I was kind of coming off the anti-war movement, and she really emphasized the importance of the how long it took to really get to political poetry and the craft that you needed to develop to get to that. And that,
you didn't want to become like a rant or something like that. Political poetry is an art more than a rant.
So to be effective, that you really had to have, like a full toolbox in a sense. So that, I think, slowed me down in a way that was really important at that time as well. And then also she just was devoted. So, she had an issue with something in my poetry, and I think 17, 18 years later, I would still send her things. She would go, you got it now. It was worth the wait. It's just somebody would be that committed and patient, not discard you because you were moving backwards. But so I think really about what the craft it takes and the dedication to craft that it takes to really be a poet
Okay.
or artist of any kind.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
So I was going to ask you. The Sunshine was a poem in here, and it's sort of, I like how you sort of subverted a pleasant name given to a female laborer as a sort of nefarious stab in the ribs or something like that. I mean, talk about that.
Yeah, so in this mixed media installation that I have, there's this life-size figure on a ladder called Stella, and she has a diamond hard hat from another image from another poem, earlier poem, but she also has tags on her that I've had tradeswomen fill out of how they're labeled on jobs. And I was at a conference and I had these, and a sheet metal worker actually hurried over to me because she said she really had one she wanted to fill out. I said, I didn't have any left. She said, well, that one's mine. It said sheet metal gal. She said, can I turn it over and do that? She's an African-American woman. And I said, sure. So she turned it over and she wrote Sunshine, which obviously could sound like a nice thing to be called. So I asked her what it meant to her, and she said slavery. So that was just so moving to me.
Why did she feel that's slavery?
Because she asked him not to call her that.
Okay.
And
so inherently there was nothing wrong with the name, but it was because of the way he used it.
And it wasn't what she wanted to be called, and she couldn't, letting him know that.
That's not your name. And I messed up your name originally when you first came. I hope you didn't feel the same way.
No. Yeah, so it was that that deliberate, it was meant to.
Now, we're talking about Stanley's Girl, by the way, a book that you just wrote, recently. And from reading the poems, which talks about your experience working with in the construction industry in the late 70s, as we said, I get the sense there was a real prison aspect to it, sort of a prison culture. I don't know if it just seemed like, people were angry and they had the little cliques and, it seemed to be very, closeted place, a place that's just, I don't know what it is. Am I wrong?
Well, what I would say is it's an industry that the workforce that had been a white male father son passed it down.
Yeah.
Trades, and then it was in the early 70s. It was the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act made that illegal to exclude people because of their race or gender. So it was first men of color broke in the early 70s, and then women broke in the late 70s. So it was all that tension that really is the kind of tensions we're dealing with in the whole country right now. So there was a divisiveness that played itself out. So I think that's also what made it, to me, interesting to have the book come out now, in the middle of Trump, because people wrestled with the same things, and on the one hand, you were all union members, so there was a sense of solidarity from that, and then on another hand, there was issues of racism and misogyny.
All right.
That the same way as we have American values about democracy, and then other kind of clannishness that goes against that. So that made me, want to look at how do you get inducted into that culture, to sort of succeed there. How do you learn to?
It's a very insular culture.
That.
Is what I meant. Sort of.
Well, I didn't know that academia isn't an insular. In other.
Yeah, I guess.
Every culture is, workplace, I think, has.
But it's much more visceral than the academia. It's physical.
Well, it's a physical job, and people are physical, and So what I would say is a hostile work environment in a dangerous workplace is a little more dangerous than a hostile work site in a professional place.
Yeah. And especially since you were a woman outnumbered by men, right?
Well, but you could be a surgeon,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I don't think they're different issues. I think it's gives you a window, and it's a more dramatic.
Yeah.
How it plays itself out.
Plus, it's dramatic when you're up on buildings and things like that.
But I think also people are more blunt. When I worked in academia, I would miss that about it. People would say, "I'm going to
behind your
back."
Yeah.
people are quite upfront.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, this book, that We'll Call You If We Need You book, the title came from calling up and saying, how do I get into an apprenticeship? And I was told the contractors don't want you, the unions don't want you, we'll call you if we need you. And then when affirmative action, was issued for, I was called, and within a month I was in. So, a certain way I can appreciate the, and you can also have a conversation with that too.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your work at the Women's Women's Writers Research Center at Brandeis.
Women's Brandeis Women's Studies Research Center. So
I recently was on a panel there.
Yeah. So that's a center where women who are artists and scholars who are kind of work in a very collegial way around their projects, and sometimes have office space, or that's for me works as a 501c3 for grants for the work that I do.
Mm-hmm. And what are your projects now there?
Well, I finished these books, and
so this is sort of like the Radcliffe, not the Radcliffe Center at Harvard. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Except that's not a paid position.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be a difference. But it's also a longer. People have longer affiliations.
Yeah.
There's more of an ongoing community, and. Yeah, now I'm working on another nonfiction project and finishing this online exhibition that's taking a mixed media installation.
How can people view that online exhibition?
It's not up yet. It'll
Not
be
up yet?
In about a month.
How will they be able to view it?
Well, there'll be a link to it on my website.
Okay, and your website is?
It's susaneisenberg.com.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Now, you also had a stint and still do in theater. Tell us a bit about that.
So, so I did theater when I first came to Boston in the early 70s with reality theater, and then I had directed a women's theater company called Word of Mouth Productions. And
so it was political theater more, was it?
Well, it was physical theater, so in that way, kind of doing physical work wasn't so different. So a Grotowski-based, theater is what I sort of studied. And
where did you study that?
Well, at reality theater here in Boston. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant in college or something.
No, college.
Yeah.
It's part of the anti-war movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a women's studies major actually in college.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And the theater, you say was physical?
So kind of physically kind of based in your body and.
What themes did it have? What were the, like?
Well, theater could be anything, do Beckett, do anything.
I know, but did you have actual plays? Did you have an
Yeah. So we did plays, and then we also created, it was like if you think of the 70s, when it started, people were doing a lot of
sort of improv type things,
Well, or developing theater from improvisation.
Yeah, I remember I used to go to the Charlestown Working Theater. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
That was a good one. Okay, so we have about 15 minutes or so, maybe even more, for you to read from your work.
Okay.
From Stanley's Girl, which is available, Porter Square Books?
Porter Square Books, really anywhere.
Amazon, the whole bit, right?
Yeah. So it's published by Cornell University Press. So
okay. That ain't shop liver.
So that's another place to get it. Let me read this. It's a long poem. So in terms of that, like how do you enter that space, and what do you bring to it also that makes you able to accommodate? Welcome. Everything you thought you knew must be relearned overnight. How to walk. Walk, not trip, over cords, 2x4s, used coffee cups, concrete cores. Walk, 40 pounds on your shoulder across rebar or wood plank. Glide, not wobble, not look like the bounce beneath each boot step scares you. How to dress yourself, to work outdoors all day midwinter and keep warm, keep working, fingers moving, or midsummer with no hint of breasts. How to climb ladders, not a step stool or 4-footer, ladders that stretch up 2 stories where someone's impatient for that bundle of pipe. How to get coffee, hot and how they like it, to a crew spread out 10 floors, to carry muffins 3 blocks in a paper sack through sheets of rain. How to look, to never go back empty-handed when you're told, grab me a this, that from the gang box, if all you've done is move things around, poke here and there, if you haven't emptied out the full contents so the journeyman won't shame you by finding that this, that in a quick minute after you've said, we don't have any. How to be dependable, but not predictable, provocable, not the lunch break entertainment. How to read, blueprints, delivery orders, the mood on the job, how long it's okay to sit down for coffee, how early you can start rolling up ports. How to do well in school from the back row of a seats-assigned Jim Crow classroom. How to learn tricks of the trade from someone who does not like you. How to listen, to act, don't ask, to duck when someone tells you, motions duck, or when someone tells you, don't talk to Zeke, to know what they mean, so you don't even look at Zeke, the iron worker, who's always first out, last in, standing there, so 4 times a day, start, lunch, quit, all the workers walk past him like a sandbar, waves washing back and forth that catches debris. How to pick up the phone and call your friend, the only one of the women not at class, the night the apprenticeship director met you all at the door, carrying the nervous rumor that one of the women had been raped, and you all look at each other, and it wasn't any of you 5. How to respond within protocol when someone takes your ladder or tools, imitates your voice on the loudspeaker, spray paints cunt on your baker staging, urinates in your hard hat, drives to your home where you live alone with your daughter and keys your truck parked in your own driveway. Later, you'll need the advanced skills, how, without dislodging the keystone, to humiliate a person, how to threaten a person deftly, so no one's certain for absolute. That's what happened, not even you.
So, did you anticipate when you were, about to go into it, that you would receive this kind of treatment?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, I kind of was very naive, sort of thought of it as there was a law, and so that changed, so everything was changed, which, of course, is, isn't really true for anything of history. There's like the legal reality, and then, that long shadow of the, so I kind of learned a lot from that, of really how, the law makes a difference, but it doesn't, the conditions before there was that law are still present.
Yeah.
And, so it does really make it very important, like the role that leadership plays, and, people can set a different tone, but they can also not.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mentioned the title poem. I'll read that. Stanley's Girl. Seasoned foreman and 3-month apprentice, Midwest transplants both. We swapped stories and bonded our first day team together. With his hacksaw, Stanley made an X mark, still there on all my just bought tools. To school me in safety, Stanley showed his 9 fingers. He'd stuck his hand in the mower as a boy, told how on the farm his mom could handle every job, how he'd gone from farming to mining and quit mining, didn't even pick up his check. The day going down the shaft, a man in the cart just ahead of his leaned out and lost his head. Then got his first electrical job, replacing a man whose burned shoes were still in the vault. He taught that a smart foreman knows the bid, paces work so the owner makes money, but no one kills himself. Finish early, leave early. Taught me to bolt chains to high ceilings, not when it's time to hang fixtures, but months ahead when it's easy. To catch blueprint mistakes and quietly run pipes for the extras you can charge more for when the finish is up. When sheetrockers buried electrical boxes, Stanley bellowed, That's why electricians carry hammers. We'll bash holes till we find 'em. And walls came down. When the owner wanted to get a guy from the hall for some really crap job, Stanley'd say, I'm a guy from the hall, and we'd be up in a cramped ceiling or down in a filthy engine room. When he caught a bad flu, Stanley took days off, left me in charge. The owner found out when he stopped by the job and caught the girl apprentice conferring with the super over blueprints. Stanley was everything I admired in the trade, until the day he saw a black man on the site. What's that jungle bunny doing here? All my throat could say was, what? Which, like a scratch in an old LP record, only skipped him back to repeat in that Minnesota twang I'd come to rely on as my passport to this trade. What's that jungle bunny doing here? Stanley's riled now. I keep silent, buckle myself in for this ride, for better and for worse.
So,
Yep.
so Stanley, after he made that comment, this is true, right? This is based on.
It's inspired by
situation.
Sure.
So, how did you? Were you able to still have the same sort of mentoring relationship that you had after he?
Yeah. So I think that's, in a way, that's why I made it the title poem. Is really not about. It's both in terms of him. It's that. There's another poem called "No One's Just One Thing." That people are complex, so that it's not. He was in so many ways an incredibly admirable person, really a brilliant mechanic, and a really strong union man, and really respected women in the workplace. So had, but also racist, so that it's not like a simplistic thing of this is a good person, this is a bad person. So there was that about him, but it was also really about myself and what that meant to, how do you traverse a social system, whether it's civil, like America now, or a workplace, where that has a certain compromises in it, and especially as the vulnerable new person. So there was a certain shame of not speaking out about that, in a way grabbing the training from him and choosing the relationship mentoring with him rather than to confront him. And also it was a moment that made me realize how limited my toolbox was for being able to, not just, in a strident, self-righteous way, yell at somebody and call them a name, but to really communicate respectfully about those issues that are so divisive now in our culture. So I feel like it's still something that I keep learning how to do better. Mm-hmm. So it's that kind of learning moment about myself, I think. That was the bigger,
Did you ever confront him about that statement?
No. No, I don't think I had the, So, but it did make me, want to get better at how to do those things, not in a way that maybe I had done earlier of kind of name calling somebody, which isn't useful. Yeah, so I think there is something, in a way, doing talks with the books now in the labor movement, I feel like there is a real opportunity. It is like a family, the labor movement that has its issues like within itself. So I think that's kind of a really important place to kind of try to have those conversations in a really healthy way. And I kind of feel like the work I've been working on with the poetry book, the nonfiction book, the online exhibition are really to help people have those conversations more productively, sort of not polarizing or not name calling, but to really recognize everybody's humanity.
Okay. Well, you got about 3 minutes for another poem, if you can time it.
Well, let me read the...
Probably not too long, but not too short.
Maybe I'll read the poem that comes before the sunshine one that you just, or comes with it, comes right after it. Um, the job site marksman. He'll swear he slept through high school. Lie. In history, he took careful notes, then machine-cut keys to the tender spots. A noose left swinging by the gang box. Jokes about gooks thrown from choppers. Another dead engine whooped as a crushed beer can's kicked to the trash pile. A snapshot he calls apprentice training thrust in her face of a seam roller shoved up a woman's vagina. Seam roller, the very tool in her hand. It's her first time hanging wallpaper. He's her foreman. She'll be told to lighten up. Ignore him. He's old, young, a nitwit, a relative, harmless. But the prankster knows what she knows. The past is as present as a cinder in the eye.
So tell me, what's your schedule like? What are your readings, et cetera, et cetera?
Well,
where can people see you or hear you talk?
Here I'll be reading in the Newton Free Library series on
Oh.
September with you. September 11th, I'll be reading at in the Blacksmith House series on November 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Be doing an event in New York at the ILR Workers Institute September 5th.
Iowa Writers Workshop?
No. It's the Industrial Labor Relations Cornell Worker Institute
Okay.
in Manhattan,
Okay.
September 5th in New York.
We have like a minute and 50. I think you can read Sunshine probably
Okay,
real
sure.
quick.
Okay. Sunshine. She made the mistake of telling her white journeyman to stop calling her Sunshine. She hated being called Sunshine. She had a name, wanted to be called by her own name. From then on, days start to days end, roll out the chords to roll up the chords. It was sunshine, 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 sunshine. Each sunshine, like a screwdriver poked in her back rib, a reminder of her position, lower than whale shit on that construction site, but more, a reminder of slaveholding's long shadow that laws have not blocked.
Well, thank you very much, Susan Eisenberg, for coming on Poet to Poet, Writer to Writer.
Thank you.
Okay.